Our thanks indeed to all of you who are gathering for this really critical and important cause in the support of children and family with GM2 gangliosidosis. As some of you will know, but many of you are only learning today, this is a group of diseases that are hugely impactful for children and families who are living the journey with this disease. Sadly, the disease is a progressive neurodegenerative disorder that results in childhood dementia, loss of neurocognitive skills, and premature death for all children affected by this disease. Whilst we're encouraged by an increasing amount of research towards developing therapies for these conditions, at this point in time across the globe, there are no effective therapies for these children. And their desperate situation requires ongoing attention both from the scientists, the scientific community and the clinical community, and indeed from the wider advocacy and support communities to help push therapies forward for this devastating disease. Your input and your support is critical to this endeavour, and we thank you for that on behalf of all people working towards improving the lives of these very special children across the globe.
Okay, so Freya was born on the 26th of August 2022, and everything was perfect. After a few nights in hospital, we went home, and all of a sudden we were parents. And just like any new parents, we had, sleepless nights. We had trying to get the milk, established. We were trying to figure out what we were doing. I don't know if we had any idea what we were doing. We, had nights where we would be sleeping on the living room floor, all of us together. It was basically just complete chaos, but it was fantastic. Freya was such a wanted baby, and so Freya started moving really early. She was hitting all of her milestones. She started rolling quite early. She was eager to move. She was so smiley. She was quite a social baby, and would be out at the shops, and she'd be in her pram and she would see other children, and she would just her face would light up, and she would just break into this big grin. She had started getting her teeth. She started eating her solids at about 6 months, and every pediatrician appointment went well. They just kept saying she's doing fantastically, she's thriving. That's the word they always use. They said that Freya's thriving, and she was just developing perfectly. So we were ecstatic. We'd wanted a child for so long, and we finally had her, and we used to just go to bed at night, and she'd be sleeping beside us in her cot, and we used to just peek in there, and we always said to each other, every single night we said to each other, we're just so lucky. And we just finally had a little family that we had always wanted. So it was around July that we noticed the change. There's a fantastic video of Freya, and it's at the end of June, and Freya is playing with ping pong balls on the mat, and she's passing them from hand to hand, and she's sitting up really straight, and she, I talk to her and she looks over at the camera and she smiles at me, and this was, just Freya. She was, like I said earlier, she was just developing so normally. There were no red flags to me whatsoever. And then we travelled to Europe for the summer, and there's another video that was taken 2 weeks later, or even less. I think it's 13 days later. And Freya, you can see in the video, something had changed in that short amount of time. That's how rapid this disease set in. And you can see in her muscle tone and the way that she's eating, she did look very different. But you have to realise for 99% of her life we had been told, this baby is doing so well and she's hitting all of her milestones. So it was quite easy for us to put it down to, she's jet lagged, or she's feeling really hot. We're over in Europe, it's summertime. So after that trip, I think I did start to get a sick feeling in my tummy that something wasn't right.
Once we returned from Europe, we went to see a paediatrician who immediately showed his concern about Freya's demeanour and the way that she was performing. And at that moment, we knew that there was something wrong. There was a red flag, of a cherry red spot, which only appears during a handful of metabolic disorders. But it wasn't until after that, and I, took to Google as everyone does to learn of what the cherry red spot means, and it was quite damning in the diagnosis of finding out what she could potentially have. Yeah, and this was the beginning of her worst nightmare. After numerous tests and hospital appointments and genetic testing for Freya, she was diagnosed with Tay-Sachs disease, and we were told there was no cure.
I think, like any parent, receiving this news is a huge amount of fear and a real sense of helplessness, because, as much as we had done everything to protect Freya in her early days, we were the parents that got the thermometer out to measure the water temperature to make sure that everything was completely safe. We looked at the temperature in the room to make sure that she wasn't overheating, and everything she ate. We were so conscious with every decision we made with Freya. She really was, and is our miracle child. But being told that you can't do anything about it, I think that was the hardest part of a doctor saying there's no cure for this. We don't have enough research. There's nothing that can be done. That was extremely difficult.
Living with a child with Tay-Sachs is fucking hard. It's tough. We are now feeding with a tube. We have to lift her everywhere she needs to go. Seeing her change, go from this kind of perfect little being who's developing normally, and who we aspire to take her first steps and say her first words. We're not going to have that opportunity as parents, but we will see lose her personality, unfortunately lose her her ability to grip things, to hold herself up, not be able to move. She's not able to feed herself anymore. She's not able to eat orally, drink, and we are now doing that for her.
At the Cats Foundation, a lot of the work that we do really focuses on that support element. We have dedicated family support officers who work with our families to allow them, to educate them, to make them feel they know how to provide a really high level of care to their loved one. We really encourage that, to make sure that families feel they have those resources so they can do everything from the home setting, which is more natural and comfortable for their child as this awful disease progresses with them.
The Ray Fine Foundation was established in Australia in 2019 after my son Sebi died of Tay-Sachs disease at age 22 months. When Sebi was born in the UK, we had the support of the Cats Foundation Cure in Action for Tay-Sachs throughout the diagnosis period and for us that in the world, and we understood the importance of what that means for other families. It's really hard to believe that in the year 2024, for a condition that's been known about for over 100 years, there is still no cure. So thank you so much for coming out today and supporting the gorgeous Freya and Simone and Ali in the amazing work that they're doing to help this global initiative.
Despite being so far away from home and isolated, navigating this very new reality, the community in Hong Kong has been incredible. Without you guys sitting here tonight and others who cannot make it, we wouldn't have survived the past 6 months. In so many ways, so many of you have given us a physical or a virtual hug to keep us buoyant through some very, very testing times. Throughout this time, and due to all this support, our faith in humanity has been restored, and we will be eternally grateful to all those who have supported us.
So what is important for me to share is, although this is a very rare disease, it's not actually a rare mutation. So 1 in every 250 people actually have this mutation, and in the Ashkenazi Jewish population it's 1 in 29 people. So many people are walking around with this mutation and they are completely unaware of it. And all it takes is for 2 of them to get together, and they've got a good chance of having a child that will have this disease. So for me, it's just about raising awareness that these genetic diseases can happen to anyone, happen to Ali and I, and it's so simple to get screened for genetic mutations, and it's a simple blood test, and I think that knowledge is just really important. And I feel throughout all the treatment that we had, to have Freya, that was never something that was mentioned. And I just feel, with people having that knowledge and us raising awareness, hopefully people will have that chance.
Always changing, aren't they?
You having fun? Wow.